Hi, welcome to TacTalk. Of course, I'm your host, Chris Linville with Vulcan Arms and Guns America. I have my good buddy, Andrew Chavaria, here with me today. And today we have a great guest by the name of Tyler that we're going to get into. Do you want to introduce Tyler?
Tyler, how do I introduce Tyler? Tyler is a crayon eater. Sorry, I meant Marine.
Only the blue ones.
Only the blue ones? I thought it was the red ones.
Blue's my favorite flavor.
Okay, that's fair. Tyler's a former Marine. He and I connected through some various different business contacts. Well, we've been following each other, friends on social for a while.
Yeah.
And we just ended up connecting at a poker night. And we were just like, he was like, wait, are you? And then are you? And I was like, yeah. So we sat next to each other. By the way, he doesn't know how to play poker. So if you ever want to win some money, invite him over. He's doing various things in the business sector, but then he also has Checkmate Training Group just north of McKinney, DFW area in Van Alstyne. Again, for you, Chris, like Canada.
Yep.
But they're running. It's a shoot house where they are running sim rounds and different things like that, and it kind of really helps. As one of the things that we've favorited in talking about on TacTalk is your home defense. What's your plan? What's your strategy? How many swinging doors do you have? All of those things. So he's actually helping people develop that mindset in a practicum way.
That's
which
awesome.
is really dope.
Yeah.
So that's. I'll let you elaborate more on that, bro, because I know that I've seen some of the videos. I've seen some of the stuff. We made fun of, we had Trevor on one of the shows, and I made fun of him because Jamarcus had the sim round AR, and I saw the video pans over, and Trevor has the blue gun. I was like, getting him with the blue gun. But, so again, dude, just appreciate you first coming on the show. But tell us a little bit about kind of what you have going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Of course.
This is awesome. So Checkmate started, whenever I was going to get out of the military, we always heard hey, your skills won't transition to civilian life. I'm like, this is something I'm passionate about. It's going to transition with me. I just need to figure out how. So I was like, okay, maybe a range. Lots of gun ranges in Texas, which is great. And so it wasn't quite that. I was trying to figure it out. And then after the Allen Outlet Mall shooter a couple years ago, there was a lot to process from that situation, right? So law enforcement was already on scene. Body camera footage was showing him speaking with a mother and her child about the importance of wearing a seatbelt. Just like light talk, laughter.
Sure.
And then you hear shots. Gets to his truck, grabs his weapon, does a great job getting to the threat and taking out the threat.
I think we can all give that guy props, right?
Oh, yeah.
That
100%.
cop did an incredible. He was the opposite of the Uvalde cops.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
100%.
Great.
Yeah.
Great at setting the standard on that. Absolutely.
Yep.
And to be able to watch the body camera footage, it's like, that's how it should be done.
Yep.
Absolutely. And so what we unpacked from it was there was actually a lot of people that were armed that were just in the back of stores.
Sure.
And whether that's because they didn't have the training to have the confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be pistol versus rifle.
Sure.
Or maybe they were with their family, just shopping. Maybe they were trying to rally their kids.
Yep.
Whatever it was, we saw kind of a gap that needed to be served, which is the training to go engage if you see fit, or the training to evade properly.
Yep.
So they were kind of just trapped in stores. So that's where we came out with Checkmate Training Group. Okay. So kind of like kids will go through fire drills at school, and there hasn't been a casualty from a fire in a school.
Yep.
Because they go through the basic steps. Their mindset is actually putting themselves
conditioned
in
to know what to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's muscle memory at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
I love the part where you talked about the proper way to evade, right? Because there is a right way and a wrong way to evade a situation. And 99.9% of the time, people are going to evade the wrong way, right? And the immediate thing that comes to mind was the state fair this past year, and the active shooter at the state fair. And you just watch the pandemonium and the chaos of people. They just start running, and there's no direction. They're trampling each other, and some people don't realize they're running towards the gunfire. And then when they hear the gunfire closer, they about face. They're going the opposite way, and now they're running other people over and getting ran over.
Right.
There's a proper way to evade and a wrong way to evade, right? Yeah. So I think that's a huge one as well. Versus guys like us, and it's easy. Chris and I've had the conversation. We've talked about it with Vince Vargas on the show before. We're all wired, and because of training, we're wired to go to the threat, right? Myself being prior service, and our connection there is dude, we're wired. I'm going towards the threat. There's a lot of people that aren't. We had a guy that goes to our church that was there with his wife, young married couple, and he is the opposite of me. He's He's a licensed clinical therapist. He's a very soft-spoken dude, very compassionate, love him. But he was one that was like, he goes, dude, I was terrified. And I had no idea what to do. Right. So like guys like us that are wired to go to the threat, cool. But there's also a whole nother line of people that aren't wired to go to the threat, but you want to get out safely.
Well, but even then, if you take guys like us that are wired that way, right? Wired to handle the threat, to run toward it.
Yep.
That still doesn't mean we're trained properly to do it unless we're actively taking training and bettering our skills every day and understanding that these are perishable skills too.
Yep. That's what I was about to say. One of the things we talk about all the time is perishable. Shooting is a perishable skill.
Well, not just shooting, but you take a situation like what you guys are teaching at Checkmate. I mean, the tactics of how to properly enter a room or not.
Yep.
That's a perishable skill in itself.
Yeah.
And takes thought, and it's not generally the way that if you just think out, you don't have any sort of training like yourself, an expert in it, to say this is the way to approach this, you're quite likely going to enter and do it wrong the first time you think. Whatever you think makes sense is not the way to do that. I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with the students because they'll come in and they'll realize it's kind of like the natural human habits, right?
Yep.
You open a door, you walk right into the center of the room. Even just shaking that off is like you're watching that happen. They're calculating that in their mind. They're like, wow.
And I imagine when you're training, you kind of got to let them do that.
Yeah.
You got to let them fuck it up.
Yeah.
And then get shot with sim round or whatever. And then, okay, now let's go over how you might approach that different.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Right. And so are y'all using so I assume this is a full built shoot house you've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wood walls.
Wood walls. Mm-hmm. And so are you using sim rounds? Are you using airsoft? What are you using?
So we have like dummy guns that can't chamber anything.
Okay.
We have some like dummy blades as well for disarming stuff. We have airsoft, and then we have sim rounds like blue bolt.
Yep. Blue bolt stuff.
So it just kind of depends on who's coming. Right. So we have some law enforcement use the spot. We have military use the spot.
Yep.
We have just regular people use the spot.
Right.
We've had people that have never held a firearm come out.
So you're using blue guns at that point.
Crawl, walk, run. Private groups, they want to shoot each other right away. So we kind of go over the basics and, we can throw them in there a little faster.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And the way you guys are doing it with wood walls and then stepping up in the rounds or the lethality of it, right? It makes a lot of sense as compared to where I do CQB training times where we go out to Osprey International and we're shooting ballistics, concrete, sub-T, shoot houses, right? And you certainly can't do that with live rounds with amateurs or even novices, right? At that point, right? And so
absolutely.
There's definitely a step-up approach. It's got to be, so.
Yeah, and a big part of it too, I think, is, right, so you brought up Uvalde, right? And so, I mean, that was horrible.
Yep.
How do we, for the ones that are against guns in schools, or there's a big barrier, and oftentimes that's with any situation. A fence is painted, and you're supposed to get on one side or the other.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of find some gray space to allow people to have conversation on it. So it's like, hey, if you don't like the weapons, let's at least teach the staff how to move.
Yeah.
Let's teach them how to evade. Let's teach
100%.
them how to move the kids. How to be mindful of the angles of exposure that they have in the room. And it kind of allows a space to have an agreement on it instead of it's either all of it or none of it. So that's a big part too. So we've been helping like Sanger ISD, Argyle,
it's awesome.
Getting involved with law enforcement over there as well.
Because the reality is it takes both. Right?
It does.
It takes both, especially in a school situation. It's going to take people that their job is to get the kids off the X, right? And then it's going to take people that are ready to go to battle and handle the threat, right? It takes both to do it. And so I think that's a really great way to do it because the reality is right now, everybody in this country is so hard right, hard left, and they're screaming at each other. And when you scream, nobody listens. I don't, you don't, none of us do, right? And so I think that's a really awesome way to approach it. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that one of the things that and we're going to actually have this guy on the show in the future. I've already spoke with him, but I got a buddy of mine who, actually my tattoo guy, he's like, hey, dude, my uncle did this product. He goes, and I kind of wanted to see what you think about it. His uncle was a Navy SEAL, cross-trained as a Ranger back in the day. That was pretty common to do. It was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And because he was a Navy SEAL and a Ranger. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. Then,
how does that?
Then I was like, pretty sure it doesn't work that way. And then you kind of do some research. You're like, dude, back in the day, these old head, they were doing that. They were cross-training in between branches and stuff. He founded a company, though, and I've talked about the product once on a different show, but he created this product called Go to Green, and it's a light system for public schools So red light, green light mindset, right? But the only thing that sets it off is a concussive blast from a firearm. And if it's green, it means shooter's not close. You go towards the green lights. If it's red, that means you hunker down or you go the opposite direction of where the red lights are going, right? And again, it was kind of one of those deals where in his mind, obviously school shootings rising, that thing. How do we get properly? Because again, the not all teachers are armed argument. Well, then how do we properly get these kids out, and how do we make the technological advances to safely do that? So I think it's an amazingly innovative product. I already talked to him to come on the show, but solid connection, I think, even for you guys at Checkmate, right? But that said, again, it's something centered around. I just literally saw this meme on the way up here. It said, ordered my 1990s bomb shelter, and it was a school desk from the 90s. And I was like, bro, like, I mean,
they were steel.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what we hit under, right? Like in our mindset, bomb attack, get underneath, right? It's funny though, because again, those things that we think about from a muscle memory standpoint, like that 90s desk, I saw that meme and like that was like immediate, like, dude, I was there. I was back in the classroom as a kid in the 90s. I knew. So again, you knew in our day and age when we were growing up that threat was like, oh, this is what you did, right? Fire alarm. That threat, you knew what your path was out of your classroom, out of your portable system, out of whatever it was. You knew how to get out of the building. So again, huge props to you for actually implementing that part into what y'all are doing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it's important too that if we think about what we do in our daily lives and what we teach our kids, important things like, if there's a fire, you call 911 and firefighters are going to come handle it, and this is where you go, right? When I was growing up in Southern California as a child, we were taught what to do when an earthquake hit, right? But why the hell aren't we teaching people what you're teaching people? And that is, when this happens, you can't be standing there bewildered and wondering what to do, right? And then conversely, one of the things that you said I thought was really interesting was you teach the fight and the evade. And the reality is that's an important question, even for people that are wired like we are here, to where typically I am absolutely wired to run toward the threat. That's the way it is. And the way I think about that is so many people in our world aren't. So there's got to be some of us to do that, right? But I think it's really important, and you talked about your wife, and we're all married here, that it's important that we have that conversation with our spouses as well to say, when a situation comes down, what, honey, do you want me to do? Yeah. Because if something happens to one of us, we're gone. They've got to live with that decision we made. Yep. Yeah. Right? And so I think that's an important conversation we need to have with those that we love and care about is, what do you want? And I asked my wife that at one point. My wife said, look, I know you're not going to be able to not go at it. Okay, great. What do you want me to do? And she said, I want you to make sure I'm safe first, make sure we're good, and then do what you got to do. And that way, she's part of that decision-making process. And if the worst happens, she can live and be okay.
Yeah. I will say this though, Tyler's wife, though she's off camera and sitting off screen, she's different.
Oh yeah,
she was a Marine.
Is she going to the threat?
She was a Marine.
Yeah.
So
all right, stack up.
So she'll stack up, bro. She's a Marine.
Nice. That's all I can do to get my wife to the range of train ever. So that's awesome.
So she'll stack up with us, and she's going in. All right. We're dropping bodies together.
she's with it for sure.
Yeah, I dig it.
I think you bring up such a great point about that conversation, because you don't want to be trying to have that talk.
Not at that moment.
Not in that moment. No,
you certainly can't.
No, absolutely.
It has to just be natural and hit in muscle memory at that point.
Yep. Yeah.
When the adrenaline is running at that point, which takes me to the whole if you're going to bother to carry a firearm, if you're going to have that, it comes a responsibility. If you carry, like I carry every day, right? And the reality is, you shouldn't be carrying a damn gun if you're not prepared for every aspect of what could happen with it. It's very, very important that we do that and we be prepared. So don't get a gun and shoot it once a year. That's not going to help you. Get a gun and go to the range weekly. Make sure to put a lot of rounds down. And hopefully you can find a place that's not just you standing in a lane and shooting.
Yeah.
Get to a place that at least has enough wide open space. You can do drills and move around and draw and shoot. The best thing is to go to a place like Checkmate, where you have not only incredible facilities that allow you to do these things, right, but you have actual instruction that you can learn and do what is needed.
I think one of the important things that you said, though, and then this has always been like one of the most important to me, is the ability to draw and shoot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That ability alone is so important and imperative, right? Like I've watched videos of guys that got blasted because they did not know how to. They had the gun.
They got twisted
up. They didn't know how to draw it right, and they get blasted. And God rest their souls. But again, if you would have trained and you knew what you were wearing that day, you knew what your outfit was, you knew how to draw your firearm. Makes the difference. Yeah.
And I'd recommend you even put on a gun belt, put on a holster, and go try to draw it without concealing it.
Yeah.
There alone, you're going to find it's not as easy and quick and intuitive as you think it is, right? So then you do what all of us do. I wear in the waist. I think you do too, right? And so take that complexity of having a shirt over it that you got to get out of your way, get close to your body and get out. It's a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah.
And these things happen in instants.
Oh yeah. First time I drew from concealment, I was like, I'll just go to the range and I'll just try my new holster, right?
It'll be great.
I think my draw shot. I think the fourth time I'm like reholstering and I'm like shaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just experienced my gun firing and then I'm sticking it back in my pants.
Close to your balls.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't feel good.
No. And then now it's like that's the most comforting feeling ever. Is I got a gun aimed at my crotch. I got that thing on me, but. Like you have to go get those reps in, so that you don't.
But this is a different conversation though. Yeah. This is how important your holster is, right? Having the right holster is super important. My wife is a nurse, and she actually had a patient that shot himself in the leg because he was trying to holster a Glock. Mm-hmm. Shot himself in the leg in the wrong type of holster. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's where your holster is important. You'll appreciate this one. Chris is a SIG guy, right? Mm-hmm. They were talking, and one of the other nurses made the joke, "Oh, you should have had your safety on." And he goes, "My gun didn't have a safety." And my wife in the room goes, "Glock, huh?" And and he was like, "Actually, yeah."
Every gun's got a safety. It's right here.
It's right here.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep your booger hook off the boom switch, or don't have a holster that has something that's going to catch your boom switch.
Well, and the reality is, holster wise, every one of us, I'm sure, have a graveyard of holsters in a drawer somewhere. Yep. Right? I have dozens of them.
Literally going with that.
Right. Dozens of holsters that just don't work for me, don't work for my body, don't work for my gun, whatever the way that is most comfortable for me. Yep. So you have to try different things.
Yep. Absolutely.
You have to.
And then yes, dude, it's an investment though, bro. But one of the things that I tell people all the time is like, how much is your life worth?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's why I'm carrying my firearm.
Well, not only that and you said, well, how much is your life worth? It's not how much just my life is worth. How much is your life worth, his wife, and so on, right? Because the people around us matter too.
Yep. Yeah.
No,
exactly.
And that's why I carry. I carry to make sure that those around me that don't think about this shit, that don't do it, that don't have the cojones to run toward the fight, that their life matters too. And even the guy that says, I hate
what
guns.
Did you just
cojones.
Say? The what? No, you said cojones.
I said cojones.
You said cojones. You said that don't have the cojones.
Sorry. How do I say it right?
Cojones.
Oh, there we go.
Even the person that hates firearms, right, and doesn't like the fact that I have a gun, we're here to protect them too.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And we have a responsibility to it.
Dude, for sure.
Yeah.
So y'all change your loadout based on where you're going for the day.
Damn right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn right.
So like you're going to the movies, the mall, maybe hospital.
Yep.
What are you grabbing? Like extra medical, extra spare mags, or what?
So never extra medical because I keep a med kit in the car.
Cool.
But always extra mag. I always keep at least one mag for the day.
So I do kind of.
Do I say this?
Say it.
I'm thinking. Okay.
Say it.
Look, 99.9% of the time, I'm ignoring your rules to carry. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to word that properly. Okay. My life is worth more to me.
People are always safe around Andrew.
Yeah.
People are always safe around Andrew. Okay. Say that, right?
Yeah. So in a potentially high threat environment, it's gonna. I'm probably gonna put an extra mag in for sure. So we're gonna have minimum of running 3 mags.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I always have a knife on me. Always, just never necessarily for protection, but the utility of a knife is always important.
Sure.
But at the same time, if I drop my gun, or if I get wounded, or if something happens, I have something.
Yeah.
Right. Something catastrophic happens like that. I never want to defend myself with that, but at the same time, it's something better than nothing.
So I kind of think about it, I think I've said it before, as kind of a level 1 through 3.
Well, you
kind
did.
of every day what I'm going to do. And then as I go to more urban type situations where there's maybe more threat or the threat might be elevated, then I'm going to go all the way up, to other things. And that is a difference of how many mags I'm carrying. Maybe whether I'm carrying a subcompact pistol versus a full-size pistol. Or maybe going as far as, is my armor close? Right? Now, the reality is my thought is generally is if I have to be thinking about it to where I need armor and a rifle, that's a level 4 that I probably just don't need to go there. You know what I mean? Is kind of a thought too. Now that doesn't mean there's not always a rifle in my car and my plate carrier in the car close with a whole lot of other things, But going all the way down to places that we may or may not should carry, you can think about what to do. Like if I can't have my gun on me because there's metal detectors and I'm not supposed to have it, okay, can I get away with a knife? If I can't, one of the things that's real popular now that I've started carrying is
G10.
There you go. The Sharpies, right? Yeah, the Sharpies. And they're G10. They're sharp on the end. They look like a Sharpie, but they are stabby enough to handle a problem. So like for me typically, and we've talked about this on the show before, like my typical go-to EDC is a 43X, or a Hellcat, Springfield Hellcat, typically. But if I'm going, again, high threat, I'm taking 19, right? So I think mine would probably, without subconsciously, I think I also have a level 1, 2, and 3, right? Like of where I'm going.
Yeah.
Sure.
Same. It's so funny. I've just come full circle to buy a 43X again because I bought a 43X years ago, loved it.
Like when the 43 first came out.
Yeah, the 43X first came out. I was like, this is sweet. It can hold 15 plus 1. That's great. And then every time I'd be about to leave the house, I'd still grab the full size. So I was like, I don't ever take it anyway. Now, I'm carrying it right now. It's like 43X is awesome. I got 36 rounds. I don't even feel it on me. So,
and that's the thing, right? And we say that a lot is that it's got to be, whatever your loadout is, has to be comfortable. Or at least as comfortable as it can be.
I say the biggest gun you can carry comfortably.
There you go.
Should be what you carry for the day.
That's exactly right. And that changes throughout the year, right? Like we're in Texas in the summer here where it's hot as hell. And so we're wearing less clothes. We're wearing, so it's easier to carry a 43X than it is if you really want to go and carry a 1911 and hate your life, But you can get away with that more in the winter than you can in the summer, right? So it changes, I think.
Agreed.
But going back to kind of where we drifted this conversation from, be mindful of what you're wearing in that season, right? Because in the winter, I might have a heavy flannel and a jacket on,
but can you
plus
get to
a t-shirt? So can I get to my gun,
right?
Or fall time, I might still be in shorts. I'm fat, I sweat. Shut up. But I might still be in shorts, but I'll be in a hoodie, right? So can I go through my hoodie, right? And no, bro, I'm not going to go and spend $180 on a Tacti hoodie that has a hole so that I can draw from the pocket. I still got to come through the stupid pocket. It's easier for me to pick it up. So again, being mindful of that clothes that you're wearing, mindful of the holsters, the graveyard, right? So all those things, dude.
Hammerless revolver, shoot through the hoodie.
There you go. And be limited to 5 or 6 rounds. And it's going to hurt like hell because you probably have the ultralight. Right? So that's cool. So what?
Got a line going up the hoodie.
So how often are you running courses at Checkmate? How often you guys?
So right now we run a couple courses a month, and then we'll have private
that's
classes.
Awesome. Okay.
So
probably more private than.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're seeing it go. Is we have a lot of security companies that are interested because right now security it's level 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
You get the paperwork, it can kind of stop there. And so for higher end clients that really want, someone with I guess like a deeper skill set like us here, they need proof of concept. And so that's definitely one of the directions we're moving forward is certifying these security officers more than just I'm a level 4. You get it renewed I think every year or 2. But yeah, kind of that next echelon of like credibility within that field. Law enforcement, there are not enough of them right now. So you're seeing a lot more private security companies getting contracts. So how can we make sure that there's not an issue within a company? So like risk management as well. We've been getting invited out to like corporate buildings to run like risk assessment. And we'll offer, hey, let's paint a scenario. What's your biggest concern here? Well, riots because X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. Let's simulate a riot for you. Let's see what happens. We'll see it, we'll paint casualties. and then we'll see how they treat them, stuff like that. A lot of people don't think about the medical side of things. So
do y'all train medical as well?
We do.
Okay, that's awesome. Because you're right, that is something that is a complete afterthought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even to people that train in shoot houses, like a lot of us, people completely forget about medical.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, and I
really
think,
do.
and I've talked about this before when we had Ron Holmes on, the smartest yet most eye-opening thing that we ever did at our church was do a risk assessment for our security team. And then we realized, like, we had a guy sit here and here and here. And then when we had an expert come through and kind of poke holes, right? Basically, that's what they're doing, is they're coming through to poke holes in what your plan is. And you're like, that's a whole lot of crossfire with a whole lot of people in the middle. And you're just like, dude, that was not smart at all. It was great in theory, but when I'm pulling and popping, it's a terrible idea. Right. So it was, dude, like that's huge, because that's something like you think you know until you have to go.
Yeah. What church do you go to?
It's Lake Dallas Church of Christ in Lake Dallas.
That's awesome. They did that.
Yeah.
We ran an assessment at my son's school, and their protocol is, well, we'll just get all the kids in the bathroom because there's no windows. So I just had a conversation, like, is that kind of what they're doing across the board? They're like, well, we see it as they won't be seen, and maybe that shooter will leave it, and it's not on, like, it's not expected that they have the mindset, right? Like, that's the whole point of like having these conversations. But just kind of the question of, like, okay, so let's say you're trying to get a bunch of 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds into a bathroom, and you get 10 of them in, and you see the shooter turn in the corner. Are you closing the door on the other 10? Or are you going to leave the door open hoping they make it in and you just left the door open?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a horrible situation. I think we need a better plan, right? So, like, seeing that mindset switch and be like, oh my gosh, we've had follow-on meetings. We have much better plans. Their medical bags have a lot more stuff in them. They basically have boo-boo bags, right? Like Band-Aids and whatever else. But it's the conversations. So, I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the things, like, so we had Brian Wilkinson, who ran for sheriff in Denton County. He came and did our security thing, and he puts together a medical bag that's about the size of a football. It has everything that you need for a trauma-related situation. And the reason he developed his bag the way he did, and I get it, and I use whatever med bag you want, but that bag is designed to be chunked across a room, right? Like, so if somebody is shot on the other side of the room, and you have somebody that knows how to render aid, but they don't have the bag, you can comfortably, easily pick up that bag and chunk it across the room and it be retrieved. That's pretty cool. So it's pretty, like, I mean, so I loved that aspect to it too as well. So, you don't have somebody running to the AED machine and grabbing the med bag that's there and trying to run that back in. Just again, so they're staged in different areas. That's good.
But I think it's also important to think about medical more in a sense of your everyday life. Like, we think about, and I think you asked it earlier, what is your carry? What is your EDC, right? Well, yeah, we think about grabbing our gun, right? We think about grabbing extra mags, but are we actually taking a trauma kit with us? Ron, as an example, always has a trauma kit on him, right? Full trauma kit. And should we? The other day, last weekend, I was at the Fort Worth Gun Show. A guy accidentally shot himself.
I heard about that.
Yep, guy accidentally shot himself. And I didn't have a med kit close to me. And I felt freaking worthless at that moment, right? Because that's what was needed. Now, granted, people did, and the guy got the care he needed, right? But after I immediately dropped for cover and drew to figure out what the threat was, because I just heard a random gunshot, we figured out what it was. The next thing the thought came to my mind was, I have let somebody down by not having my med kit there. And so we need to be thinking about that. It's one thing to have them in our cars. It doesn't mean we're always next to our car either.
I keep I think a level 1+ boo-boo bag, right? Like, I have all the basic things for your boo-boos, but I also keep a quick clot and a tourniquet.
Yeah. Right? I mean, the med kits in my cars and what we pull out every time we're at the ranges or wherever, we could stop anything needed from bleeding. The point is not to cure them or fix them at the issue. It's to stop things from squirting, right? Stabilize them enough to get them to doctors that can actually do the work. Exactly. Right? And so, fortunately, I've had the opportunity of doing training with people like Nathan Mitchell, who was a corpsman, right, and inserted with recon teams and so on. So the guy knows his stuff, but not everybody has the opportunity to have that experience, and I think we need to make that more the forefront too. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. But I love that you guys are going into schools and having those conversations, because you're right. It's one thing to know what to do when the fire alarm goes off, but we don't teach anything else. And it's just insane to me. So This is really awesome, man. I love that there's a place that does what you do and you close enough that we can go out there and do this.
Yeah,
if nothing else for fun, but also constant learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'd like to. Why don't we do that? Why don't we schedule a Vulcan Day there,
yeah.
and bring along the guys and the cameras and bring the crowd along with us. You know,
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be pretty cool. You know,
Yeah.
See what Checkmate's really about. You know,
Let's do it.
See how little I actually know, because I'm humbled every time I go into a shoot house situation. Right? Like I think I know. But usually there's something that I don't, right? And so it's pretty cool to do that.
That'd be cool. I'm excited for the debrief on it.
That's right.
Cool.
Tyler's going to call me out on everything like, no, motherfucker.
You'll be calling yourself out on your own stuff halfway through it. You're
That's
gonna
right.
be like, oh, man.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, Andy, anything you want to hit
No,
before we
but I
finish up?
appreciate you coming on the show, man. And I think, again, this kind of goes back to like the show that we had with Hunt. I think this is going to be there's going to be a follow-up show to this one. We're going to have
I'd
you
love
back.
that.
Let's do it.
Yep. Well, Tyler, thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Guys, thank
for
you
having me on,
again.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you again for spending your time with us this week. We know you got a lot going on. Of course, if you need anything firearm related, whether it be cases, soft cases, weatherlock bags, or even magnetic gun mounts, like we're talking about being ready, having guns magnet maybe under a desk like this or in your car, near entry doors, you can go to vulcanarms.com for those things. Or, of course, if you need anything firearm related, you can go to gunsamerica.com. The oldest firearm marketplace on the web. Happy to help with anything you need there. Andy, anything you want to join?
Guys, again, you can spend your time anywhere. You spent 30 minutes of the day with us here listening to us gab about all things tactics. But again, if you take anything away from this episode, I want you to take away the fact that it is super important to train, to be knowledgeable of what you have and your ability to not just protect yourself, but those around you. You spend your